I've spent time with most of MSI's newest set of Polaris and Pascal GPUs, and all of them skewed toward the higher end of the graphics card spectrum. Now I finally have a chance to check out something a bit more entry level, the Gaming X GTX 1050. The 1050 is not only just a smaller number than its big brother, the GTX 1060, it also is on a different chip, the GP107 chip instead of the GP106. However, the 1050 also sports the smallest amount of VRAM out of all of the new NVIDIA GPUs, coming in with only 2 GB. The Gaming X 1050 is supposed to come with a boost clock on the GPU of 1556 MHz in OC mode set in MSI software. However, in practicality, thanks to GPU boost, the standard boost that I'm getting is 1784 MHz. This is combined with the memory having a clock speed of 7.1 GHz on that previously mentioned 2 GB of 128-bit GDDR5 VRAM. The Gaming X 1050 appears, for the most part, to resemble its more powerful counterparts with the standard red and black color scheme and white LED MSI logo on the side of the card. However, absent is any thought of a backplate. Also, as would be presumed, the card's PCB is significantly smaller than other Gaming X cards, only coming a bit out from the end of the PCI Express slot. For power, you'll only need a single 6-pin PCIe power connector. However, as far as what type of power supply you'll need, the card with my i7-6700K overclocked to 4.4 GHz never even exceeded 180 watts from the wall for the entire system. Definitely power efficient. And combined with that power efficiency is the prowess of MSI's Zero Frozer cooler, which will only have the fans spin up once they pass the 60 degrees Celsius threshold. However, in all of my benchmarking and stress testing, I could only get the Gaming X 1050 to a max of 64 degrees with a max fan speed of 24%. Barely audible, minimal effort, and providing outstanding cooling performance. Now here you can see how the Gaming X 1050 stacks up against my standard set of gaming benchmarks. In some games, thanks to its small amount of VRAM, the card gets annihilated, not even managing 30 FPS in those games at 1080p. And in other games, it manages to just get past that threshold. However, you will note that all of the games that the 1050 was tested in have their detail settings cranked all the way up. I do this to standardize my results across all cards, but realistically, you're not going to do this to your new 1050. Also, I think it's a bit disingenuous to really test this card against modern AAA titles. Yes, it can definitely play those games and can put up respectable numbers at 1080p if you drop the settings a bit. However, I see this card being a more relevant option for multiplayer or esports games. As I've been playing CSGO, you can see the frame rate is steady above 200 or so FPS. In Dota, you'll likely also experience similarly solid numbers, as well as in other MOBA or general games. That's where the GTX 1050 shines. It's a card you should get if you play the more competitive titles, and occasionally dabble in the higher end stuff such as The Witcher or Gears of War. If you mainly play AAA titles, the GTX 1050 is likely too low end for you. And comparing it against the RX 460, save for a few DX12 scenarios, the GTX 1050 is significant percentage points better than the lowest end AMD card. However, it's also considerably more expensive. The Gaming X 1050 is going for $130 right now on Newegg, which is 30% more than the PowerColor RX 460 that I've reviewed. In South Africa, the Gaming X 1050 is 3,299 Rand, which is nearly 100% more expensive than the least expensive RX 460. You're definitely not getting a 30 or 100% performance difference out of this card compared to the 460. However, while it may not beat the 460 on price per performance, it provides a slightly higher level of gaming ability, which can mean the difference between unplayable frame rates and a playable experience at this lower level of hardware, or the difference between choosing medium settings in a newer game versus lowest, which is an experiential difference that can't really be quantified. The one thing that MSI has definitely showed with the Gaming X 1050, and the rest of their gaming series lineup for that matter, is that they know how to make one heck of a cooler. 64 degrees, 24% fan speed, barely above 40 decibels. This card will be worth it if you agree with its pricing. And with that, I'd like to thank MSI South Africa for sending the Gaming X GTX 1050 over for review. What are your thoughts on the GTX 1050? Do you think it's at a good place in the current GPU market? Curious to hear your thoughts down below. Be sure to like the video if you found it helpful, or dislike it if you think otherwise. If you're new around here, be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of my tech-related content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.